Hello everyone. This hour on Verbling, the next in my Great Short Stories class, we're going to be completing the great short story. This is Great Short Stories number 20, The Egg by Sherwood Anderson. We're going to have a big discussion of the story at the end, and we're going to start off by reading the very ending of the story. I'll give you a little summary. Everyone will have a chance to read a short passage because we just have a little bit left. And we're going to be talking about Sherwood Anderson. Maybe we can look at his biography a little bit to see how influential he was in literature. And of course, we'll be talking about the English that he uses. Okay, so that's a bit about the class. Here's a bit about me. I'm Jon-Eric, your Verbling teacher for this hour. I'm an American teacher from New York, hanging out in Lisbon, Portugal to bring you this class. By the way, here are 3 quick rules to help you participate in my class. Don't forget to turn off, tune in, and open up, which means whenever you're not speaking, please turn off your microphone so we can keep the classroom quiet, particularly if there's a lot of people in the class. When you are speaking, tune in to the new words, vocabulary, and new concepts or structures that you're learning. Use them actively so I can correct you and give you feedback. And finally, open up to your classmates. Relax and have fun. We're all here to learn, and this is a safe and respectful place to practice your English. All right, that's a bit about me. I'm going to put on the screen the short story, and let's see where everyone is. It's a little bit early, so people are probably still joining us. Let me just say a quick hello to Franz. Hello, Franz. How are you?
Hi, good morning, John. I'm fine.
Good. You're
I
from
just was,
Switzerland, right?
yeah, I'm from Switzerland, but right now I'm living in Brazil.
In Brazil,
Um,
right? Okay, that's
yeah,
what you were saying the other day.
yeah, now I have a better microphone.
Where, where,
um,
where are you in Brazil?
in São Paulo.
In São Paulo. Ah, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
and sorry that I'm a little bit late since I just woke up, but I promise to eat my best. By the way, we have a warm coffee in front of me.
I just had my
Yeah.
coffee. Look, see? I just had my coffee.
Yeah, so, good morning, John.
But it's much earlier in Brazil than it is here in Portugal. So,
Yeah, six o'clock right now.
yeah, you should go back to sleep. I think you
Yeah.
should. Uh, all right. And welcome back, Yuki and Raphael. Nice to see you. Hello there.
Hello.
All right. And here is the story. If you don't have it open, you should open it at this link in the chat window. And I'll also put it in the group chat for people inside the Hangout. And we will get started. I'm wondering if we should do just a quick summary. Let me just see. Give me just a second here. My summary is a little bit too much of an analysis, but yeah. Okay, well, let's do it like this. Before we read the ending of the story, for anyone who was here before, let's just talk a little bit about the events that have happened for the first 4 or 5 minutes. Then we're going to read the story, and then I've prepared a few discussion questions which will help you think about the story in different ways. And I think the main thing that we need to talk about is if you look at his biography and you realize when the story was written, it gives you more of a clue how to think about the story, because this was written in a very important, pivotal moment. So one thing I didn't realize the first time I read it was that there are many things in this story and in his work, Sherwood Anderson's work, which are present, but they're not fully developed or mature yet. But if you look at the people that he influenced, the people that came after him, you can see where they got some of their most, um, I don't know, idiosyncratic writing from, where they got some of their themes and techniques and their style from. So I think that's one thing we need to look at is how he influenced other writers. But I've created a couple of questions for you to get you thinking about those things and the story, and particularly his use of English. So let's talk a little bit about what happened so far. Uh, can someone give me a kind of a brief 1 or 2 minute summary of the events that we've witnessed in the story so far?
I can.
Okay, go for it.
The This is the story about the family of narrator. This is the story about his father and mother. His father was very firstly, his father was a very, how to say, very ordinary person. He worked as a farm hand for in the village.
Well, we would say maybe out in the country, because
Out of-
America didn't really have villages. They just had big open spaces. But yeah, he worked as a farmhand, and I think they actually owned the farm at one point, if I remember right. I don't know if he was just a worker or if he, because it seemed like they owned the farm because they didn't have any money. It's true, but I don't remember if they just worked with other people or they were actually the ones who had the chicken farm. But anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
He worked as a farm hand in Ohio. Only one thing he had been enjoyed is drinking a glass of beer in the bar weekend. But when he married narrator's mother,
Oh, okay. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah. Sorry.
his life has changed. Narrator's mother has ambition to become a big man. She has an American dream, and she wants her husband and son to be a big man. So
A big what? A big?
being a big person.
A big person. You mean to be very tall?
I mean the successful person.
To make it big. To make it big.
Make it big. Yes.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
So they father and mother became ambitious. They began new business. It was raising poultry, raising hens. But narrator doesn't like the way of such a life because she saw the miserable life of hens. In reality, a life of hens is very sad and terrible because most of them have a serious disease in their young age, and most of them have died because of disease, and only miserable destiny awaited them who survived disease. So on the whole, it's a very miserable life cycle the hens have. And after and the business of raising hens turned out
30 seconds, Yuki. 30 seconds.
Turned out unsuccessful. So,
Yeah. So you've got 30 seconds. You've got to wrap it up. So what happened after the hen farm?
And after Handham, they have a great depth because they have to buy medicine for curing the disease for coping with the disease of hands. So they changed the job. They moved to the town, and near the station they opened a restaurant for passengers of train. And it is a very little restaurant, but they were getting big, and a narrator's life has been changed. And further,
We're gonna have to cut it there, though. We have to cut it there. We're not gonna have a chance to do everything. Let me just add one thing to that. Whoops. When they get to the restaurant, his father seems to have lots of ideas that this restaurant, or maybe it's more of an inn, because it seems like people can be boarders there. Right? Gets the idea that they are going to be or can be the kind of center of the life of the town. And he's got all kinds of crazy ideas about entertaining people. And that's kind of where we left. We left off where there's one particular traveler that comes into the inn. He seems to be waiting for someone, and his father gets this crazy idea that he's going to play entertainer, and it doesn't seem to go well. I think that's where we left off. So, good summary, Yuki. Raphael, did we leave anything out from the summary, or did we cover everything?
Yeah, in 30 seconds, as you said. The fathers told to the family to try to be entertainment in the restaurant, but the father is very introverted and cannot. It's not a kind of easygoing guy, and for them it's difficult to be entertainments. I can remember.
To be an entertainer, you mean?
Entertainers, yeah.
Right.
That's all. 30 seconds, as you say.
Okay. So let's find out what happens, because I think that's pretty much where we left off. So if you click on that link, it'll take you to this. I'm going to look at this in a doc, so mine looks a little different than yours. But anyway, that's the graphic you'll see. By the way, you'll notice, hold on, I put in a lot of links there, links to all the classes we've done. So anyone just joining now can go and re-watch the old classes or read the story below. And I've got a few links to things that will help you understand the story. To the biography of Sherwood Anderson, to the concept of the grotesque, which we'll talk about. And there's another link which you don't see here, but I put in your document, which is to manifest destiny. That's something we can talk about at the end. The American concept of manifest destiny, called in the story Getting Up in the World, but it comes from something particularly American. We'll talk about it at the end. Okay, and if you click on today's class, it'll take you down to here, and I put the text in red and blue. So we're going to go around the room and go person by person, red, blue, like that, because there isn't a lot left. By the way, let's just make sure we got the last paragraph. So the guy comes into the restaurant. His father has this trick in mind where, let me just see if it's here, that he's going to, let me just find the passage. It's where is it? Okay, I can't find it. It talks about how Yuki, as Yuki was saying, he's not comfortable. He doesn't know what to do with his hands. But he's got this passage here where about a visitor coming in.
Basically, the young man and the father decided to entertain him.
Right.
Uh,
Right. Let me just review.
young man, please don't cut me up. It is a very complicated story. It is difficult to say quickly. If you want I'll leave this class.
Well, if you're going to talk to me like that, you can leave. I mean, if you're going to talk to me like that, there's no reason to talk to me like that. I'm not cutting you off because I don't want to hear what you have to say.
The story is quite complicated.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So it is very difficult for me to summary up very quickly. So
absolutely, but first of all, there's no reason to talk like that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So go ahead.
No. I just wanted to say that young man just waiting father, and while young man is in the restaurant, father decide to entertain him to appear his importance.
Okay.
In this world.
So, because what I wanted to do was just find the part where he starts to do the egg trick, and I think I didn't include it in the reading here. That's why I was trying to get to that part. Okay, let me just read the first little bit before today's class, and then we'll turn it over. So Yuki, you'll begin, and then Raphael, and then Franz. So this part right above today's class where it says, he, this is his father, stood the egg on the counter, and it fell on its side. He tried the trick again. So he's trying to entertain this guy, Joe Kane, who came into the restaurant. And he says that he can balance the egg without breaking the shell, if I remember right. That's what I remember. I hope I got that right. He tried the trick again and again, each time rolling the egg between the palms of his hands and saying the words regarding the wonders of electricity and the laws of gravity. When after half an hour's effort, he did succeed in making the egg stand for a moment, he looked up to find the visitor was no longer watching. By the time he had succeeded in calling Joe Kane's attention to the success of his effort, the egg had again rolled over and lay on his side. So when he finally gets the trick to work, no one's watching. Okay, Yuki, you take it over with the text in red, and then Raphael, you'll do the blue, Franz, the next red, and we'll go around like that. We just have a little bit left in the story. Okay?
Just a minute.
Sorry, I don't know which page it is on your screen.
Okay, I'll see screen. I can't find. Okay, after with the showman's passion, and at the same time a good deal disconcerted by the failure of his first effort, father now took the bottle containing the pottery monstrosities down from their place on the shelf and began to show them to his visitor. How would you like to have 7 legs and two heads like this fellow? He asked, exhibiting the most remarkable of his treasures. The cheerful smile played over his face. He reached over the counter and tried to slap Joe Kane on the shoulder, as he had seen men do in Ben Head's saloon,
bar, old-time bar.
Okay. Ben Head's saloon when he was a young farmhand and drove to town on Saturdays evenings. His visitor was made a little ill by the sight of the body of the terrible deformed bird floating in the alcohol in the bottle and got up to go. Coming from behind the counter, father took hold of the young man's arm and led him back to his sheet.
Yeah. So just a question here. Sorry. So we've just got a few paragraphs. So we're just gonna do little excerpts. But let me just ask a question. So after the trick fails, Yuki, what does his father do, which makes his only restaurant patron kind of sick? What does he do? Is that part clear?
After the failure of his first trick, he began new trick. He decided to show new tricks. It is boiled eggs. There are boiled eggs and there are eggs in the bottle. He took one of it and no.
Well, what about this part about the monstrosities, the poultry monstrosities? Do you remember the things that they brought with them from the farm?
Yes. 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 Sorry. I'm sorry. I misunderstood. He decided to show monstrosities. Which he collected
from the farm
when he raised hens. This is disabled hens. He collected them. Now he decided to show them to young man.
Right, and so he collected them and he preserved them in jars. And what do you think? What would be another way to say monstrosity? Can you think of another word, a synonym for monstrosity? Because it comes from the word monster, right?
Yes.
So how are these chickens monsters? What's different about them? Why would he preserve them in jars?
Deformed.
Yeah, they're deformed.
Yeah, deformity.
Right, they've got deformities. So they've got like 2 heads and 4 wings and things like that. And earlier in the story, we couldn't figure out why he was bringing them with him. And now we know he found the use for them. Okay, Raphael, you take the text in blue, and then we'll go back to Franz and then back to Yuki. Okay, so Raphael, take the next part for us.
He grew a little angry, and for a moment had to turn his face away and force himself to smile. Then he put the bottles back on the shelf. In an outburst of generosity, he fairly compelled Joe Kang to have a fresh cup of coffee and another cigar at his expense. Then he took a pan and filling it with vinegar, taking from a jug that sat beneath the counter. He declared himself about to do a new trick. I will heat this egg in this pan of vinegar, he said. Then I will put it through the neck of a bottle without breaking the seal. When the egg is inside the bottle, it will resume its normal shape, and the seal will become hard again. Then I will give the bottle with the egg in it to you. You can take about with you wherever you go.
You can take it about with you. It means that you can take it anywhere. You can take it about with you.
You can take it about with you wherever you go. People will want to know how you got the egg in the bottle. Don't tell them. Don't tell them. Keep them guessing. That is the way to have fun with this trick.
Okay. Do you understand the trick?
Yeah. He's an entrepreneur. He's trying to do the best for his business.
It's like if you ever been down to the ocean and along the in the port at least in America, I don't know about Europe, but in America, they always sell ships in bottles. So yeah, so you have to figure out how they got the ship into the bottle, right? Because it's like a little model of a ship. So he's going to put the egg inside the bottle, but there's no way that it can fit in the bottle. How do you think it's going to turn out, Raphael?
As always, I think it was a file down again, because this tricky that he put the egg inside the bottle. I think it's not as interesting as to find out new customers and to manage his restaurant, his bar in a proper way.
Well,
Again,
if he
fell down.
if he's able to pull off the trick, I guess it's better than showing them deformed chickens.
Yeah.
We'll see.
A little bit
A little
better. Yeah.
All right. Since we don't have a lot of people, oh no, let's do this. Okay, so why don't you, Franz? Why don't you take? I actually haven't heard from you. Why don't you take? Let's take the first part of this paragraph here. Can you see where it says "Father grinned"?
Yes. Father grinned and winked at his visitor. Joe Ken decided that the man who confronted him was mildly insane but harmless.
Mildly insane.
Mildly insane but harmless. He drank a cup of tea that had been given him to begin to read his paper again. When the eggs had been heated in vinegar, Father carried his own spoon to the counter and going into the back room, got an empty bottle. He was angry because his visitor did not watch him as he began to do his trick, but nevertheless went cheerfully to work. For a long time he struggled, trying to get the egg to go to the neck of the bottle. He put the pan of vinegar back on the stove, intending to reheat the egg, then pick it up and burn his fingers.
Right. Okay, and back to Yuki. Keep going.
Okay. After a second bath in the hot vinegar, the shell of the egg had been softened and a little, but not enough for his purpose. He worked and a spirit of desperate determination took possession of him. When he thought that at last the trick was about to be consummated.
Consummated.
Trick was about to be consummated. The delayed train came in the station, and Joe Kane started to go nonchalantly out of the door. Father made a last desperate effort to conquer the egg and make it do the thing that would establish his reputation as one who knew how to entertain guests who came into his restaurant. He worried the egg. He attempted to be somewhat rough with it. He swore and the sweat stood out on his forehead. The egg broke under his hand. When the contents spurted over his clothes, Joe Kane, who had stopped at the door, turned and laughed.
So it didn't go very well.
Unfortunately, it turned out
this word nonchalantly. This word nonchalantly.
Nonchalantly.
Yeah, how would you say that? Could you find a simpler word to mean the same thing? Look at that sentence. How did he go out the door?
I think it means unfortunately. No?
Not exactly.
Go. but
Not,
no.
this is describing the way he walked to the door. So, did Joe Kane want to draw attention to himself?
Not
That's
martially.
not what? Sorry? Not
Sorry. Not I can't remember. Okay, sorry.
well, did Joe Kane want to be noticed as he left? Or did he want to get out without the father guy, without the character noticing him? That's the question. If you do something, what do you think?
I think his father came to the station, so Joe Kane has no concern about the narrator's father's show, trick.
Of course.
So he's indifferently now about father's trick. That made the narrator's father irritated. And
okay. And just one point about this word nonchalantly, because it's a word you hear a lot in everyday English.
Without interest. It means no reference.
Indifferent.
Indifferent.
Yeah, basically it means indifferent, and even more than that, it means indifferent. Yeah, but even more than that, we get the idea that he's trying to slip away without being noticed. Because if you're doing it nonchalantly, it's no big deal. You're not drawing attention to yourself. It's something everyday, normal thing. So the guy's in the middle of a trick, and this guy, and Joe Kane, is just casually walking out of the show as if it's no big deal. But it is a big deal to his father. Okay, Raphael, we're back to you for a roar of anger.
A roar of anger rose from my father's throat. He danced and shot a string of...
Shouted.
Yeah. Shouted. He danced and shouted a string of inarticulate words, grabbing another egg from the basket on the counter. He threw it, just missing the head of the young man as he dodged through the door and escaped.
Why did he throw the egg? Why would he do that? That's his only customer, and he threw an egg at him. Why did he do that, Raphael?
Oh.
What did Joe Kane do before he walked out the door? Did you catch that part? Anyone? Class? What did Joe Kane do right before he left? Yuki, France?
You mean father? Yeah.
No, what did Joe, the guy who was going to the train, what did he do right before he walked out the door?
He smiled. He laughed.
Yeah, he laughed at him.
So that make father irritated and angered and disappointed.
And he threw an egg at Joe.
Yes.
Because that's how you run a business. If you don't like people, you just throw things at them. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, Raphael.
Father came upstairs to mother and me with an egg in his hand. I don't know what he intended to do. I imagine he had some idea of destroying it, of destroying all eggs, and that he intended to let mother and me see him begin. When, however, he got into the presence of mother, something happened to him. He laid the egg gently on the table and dropped on his knees by the bed, as I have already explained. He later decided to close the restaurant for the night and to come upstairs and get into bed.
So, What do you think? Why do you think he's got the egg in his hand, Raphael, when he goes upstairs? Does he have a purpose, or is he just out of his mind at this point?
I think it's a crazy guy. A crazy guy. This father is introverted with a lot of things, very creative, but I think it's out of his mind. I don't realize what are he doing. I'm wondering that he's trying to be in touch with his wife and his son, trying to be more easygoing and to have a better relationship between them. But I don't know what happened.
Right. He seems like he's kind of shaken up. So he's still carrying an egg when he goes upstairs. Franz, you're going to finish the story with us with the text in blue. Can you see where we are?
Yes. When he did so, he blew out the light, and after much moderate conversation, both he and mother went to sleep. I suppose I went to sleep also, but my sleep was troubled. I awoke at dawn and for a long time looked at the egg that lay on the table. I wondered my eggs had to be, and why from the egg came the hen who
The
was
hand.
laid back. The hen, it's the man, chicken, right? Hen. Okay. The hen who again laid the egg. The question got into my blood. It has stayed here. It has stayed there. I imagine because I'm the son of my father. At any rate, the problem remains unsolved in my mind, and that, I conclude, is but another evidence of the complete and final triumph of the egg, at least as far as my family is concerned.
Wow. What do you think he means about the complete and final triumph of the egg? Wow, what does that mean? Franz, want to venture a guess what he means by that? What is the triumph of the egg? Just out of curiosity, what do you think he means by that?
I'm not really sure. And it's a difficult text, but um, whatever his father was trying to do, I think he's done. We don't want to try anymore, but I'm not sure.
So it's about his father not succeeding with the trick? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I definitely think it's linked to that. Um, well, let's see if we can figure out what he means by that. I've got several discussion questions. We can talk freely, or we can go through these questions. I just try to get some questions to make you think about some of the major points in the story. So I'll ask these questions to the whole class. Okay, anyone can talk. First of all, we'll get to the triumph of the egg, but why is the story called The Egg and not The Inn or not My Father? Why do you think it's called The Egg?
I think egg is the main point of this story, and all the event in this story is involving in an egg, and the egg has a maybe symbolistic meaning in this story. It is deeply involved in the narrator's life, his way of thinking, and egg story around the eggs have a big influence on his life. Maybe because of that, he became a writer. I think so.
Interesting. And in English, you often hear that something is an issue of what came first, the chicken or the egg. Well, what's the chicken and egg issue in this story? Think about this for a second. The chicken, the egg is like the idea of, I mean, they use it all the time. Like, I don't know, in science, right? Well, without energy, there couldn't be a Big Bang, right? But how was there a Big Bang unless there was energy before it, or something like that? So it's the question of the chicken or the egg. So is there a kind of paradox in this story, a chicken and the egg paradox?
Yeah, I think, if I may, I think it's related, as you are saying, the story between the egg and the chicken. At the end, as far as I could understand, the egg is the only triumph that this father has achieved in her life, because all the other stuff is a fail.
Failure.
A failure.
Right.
For this reason, the egg could be the beginning of a successful life for this family. It could be the new chicken, the new approach to the new chicken in successful life to this family. It's another opinion.
Okay, and also, we usually beat eggs. Do you know what it means to beat eggs?
BX, B or half? To beat
beat, B-E-A-T, beat. To beat eggs is just a way to say that you mix them before you fry them. To mix scrambled eggs, you beat the eggs. It means to mix them in a bowl. But in this story, it's the egg who beats the people. It's not the people who beat the egg. So I kind of think that the triumph of the egg is because the egg is the winner of the story. It's the one thing that doesn't change. It's just my opinion. I could be wrong. But they keep getting beaten no matter what they do. They seem to fail. But the egg persists because first they're on a chicken farm. And that doesn't work. So they go and create a restaurant. Yeah. And what do they serve at the restaurant? Eggs. the only surviving member of the story, the only one who survives intact is the egg. Everything else is broken.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
The egg is always accompanied with the narrator's family. So egg is a big meaning for this family, and I think egg has a symbolic meaning. Egg and chicken is a kind of life cycle. It's a life cycle of useless life cycle. Maybe human has also such a empty life, like egg and chicken have. So I think the egg and chicken is not only concrete meaning. This is a very
so it gives a sense of futility.
Abstract meaning. Sorry.
So the abstract meaning is that there's a sense of futility, the life cycle of chicken and egg.
Futility, sense of empty, hollow life, maybe, life in vain.
But at the same time, I think this is a comedy. I agree with you completely. It has a sense of futility because even they go through so much trouble to hatch the eggs in the beginning, right? They go through so much trouble. Franz disappeared right when I was about to ask him a question. They go through so much trouble to hatch the eggs in the beginning, but then the chicken gets sick. And the ones that don't get sick, they're really helpless, and they're these naked things. And they get feathers, and then they get diseases. They grow up, they mature, but then they get diseases. So like it's so difficult to have the chicken survive. It all seems very futile. But I get the feeling that the story is meant to be funny. And I mean, I think it is. The situations are completely ridiculous. And one element of humor, I think, is symbolic. By the way, just my opinion.
I agree with you. This is a tragic comedy. So egg is, at the same time, egg is a kind of hope for this family, for father. So, but egg brings at the same time tragedy. So I agree with you totally.
I think that whoops, I lost the story there. Well, you know where we are in the story. I just think that the ending of the story, where he tries to put the egg in the bottle and it breaks, I think it's symbolic in another way because I think that the thing that broke in the story is his father. His father broke, his spirit broke, and he goes upstairs. He's holding an intact egg, right? The egg that he's holding is whole. And that's the triumph, I think, I'm not sure, but I think that's the triumph of the egg that's mentioned at the end of the story. The egg ends up whole, and his father ends up broken like an empty shell. But I think it's there as a kind of comic, almost like a pun. It's not meant to be yeah, like you said, tragic comedy, a little bit like Beckett, maybe. uh, Let me just ask. So we talked about life cycles a minute ago. Um, eggs become chickens. Is this life cycle symbolic? Well, we talked about the symbolism, but in what other ways are life cycles shown in the story? Do we see other examples of cycles in the story? Just out of curiosity. Do you recall any others?
Yeah, if I may, there are some cycles as in every life. You try something, and it could be successful or a failure, and you need to have. There are another symbolic to me, another symbolism to me, as Yuki said before. To have eyes or to have goods is another things related with the story, at least for my symbolism, to have goods and try again and again to be successful with any kind of business that you are trying. But on the other hand, you can find what is successful is to have a very good business with a lot of entertainment there, with a lot of clients there, or to be in touch with your family, with your son, with your wife. What is better?
So
But
it raises the question. Is that to me? It raises the issue about values, right?
yeah, yeah.
So he's got to judge. The father doesn't seem to be able to balance or clearly differentiate between the value of his family and the value of his business because he's ignoring his family. He stays up all night to prepare the food or whatever, and then he's asleep when they're awake.
Yeah.
And so there's a cycle of creating businesses and having them fail in the story. I agree. There's a cycle of raising the kid. The kid seems to be watching. We don't, but we get to him from being, mentioned when he was very young, and now he's older. The cycle of going from one life to another. They give up their old life and they move on to something else. So those are. Yuki, would you say there's any other cycles in the story that we might have missed?
I think what Rafa said have a very good point. One of the main themes of this story is a successful story especially for American success story. What is the success? Yeah, is one of the main theme of this story, and the success story is very closely related to the life cycle of people, and maybe life cycle of egg and chicken. This family, father and mother, especially mother, have a big ambition to be successful. For her husband and son, but it turned out kind of not as mother intended. So mother's big ambition moved to father. Father wanted to be a big man. Successful man, and he tried to show it when he just just entertain customer. in such a way, very curious way. Yeah. So it's a very it's a story of success. What is success? But at the same time, I think it's a story of human's life. What human's life is like, and it is maybe it is empty and useless, like a chicken's life. So very ironically describe the typical American success story here.
And just a note on that, let me see if I can just share a picture with you. Hold on just a second here. Whoops. Take a look at this. Let's see if we can. Can you see this image?
Yes.
Okay.
I
so
see a girl is flying on the farm. Yeah.
Not the typical girl. She's unusual, don't you think? Look, I don't know if you can see this. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can get a look. I don't know if you can see this well, but in her hand. By the way, this is a painting called American Progress by John Gast from 1872, and the girl, this goddess figure, she's holding in her hand the telegraph line. So you can see telephone poles behind her. It's not really the telephone because the telephone was just invented, so it's not really the telephone, it's the telegraph. And she's carrying the wire from the telegraph in her right hand with a book, which who knows what that is, it could be the Bible or something. And on her left hand, she's stringing the telegraph wire across the country. The railroad is behind her, and the kind of explorers are in front of her. So you've got scouts. Actually, if you look at the left side of the painting, you can see Indians, and they're in this body position where they look kind of afraid or subservient, like they're being driven out of the country. So this is called American Progress. It's pretty symbolic. And
American development of technology and success. Yeah,
exactly.
American dream.
It's the American dream.
Telegram is invented by Edison, American inventor. Yeah, I'm right.
I think so. I think so. Yeah,
so
I think it was
the symbol of America. And development and successful story and technology.
And specifically, this term I mentioned earlier, manifest destiny. So here's a Wikipedia page. I'll just read the very first paragraph. In the 19th century, manifest destiny was the widely held belief. That means that was what the population thought. The widely held belief in the United States that American settlers were destined to expand throughout the continent. Historians have, for the most part, agreed that there are three basic themes to manifest destiny: the special virtues of the American people and their institutions, America's mission to redeem and remake the West in the image of agrarian America, and finally, an irresistible destiny to accomplish this essential duty. When we say destiny, we mean they thought that they were sent by God to take over the continent and turn it into, get rid of the heathens, get rid of the native people, and civilize it and bring Christianity and bring technology and all those things.
So you want to say that this story is maybe written in the time of development of America, in the time of developing.
A little bit after, yeah, a little bit after, but I think this is a reflection. I think this is a reflection on the concept of manifest destiny, and I think it's a humorous reflection, but a tragic comedy, absolutely. But I think he's trying. I don't even know if he's doing it deliberately. I think his life, the writer's life, just is a natural result of this 19th century philosophy. He was born in 1872 or something like that. I don't remember. So this story is probably written in the early 30s. The Great Depression was probably just hitting at that moment. So I think it's a reflection. The Great Depression was a moment of reflection. What do you think he's trying to say about manifest destiny?
I'd like to say a very important point. I understand what you said. Maybe it is a very oriented American story, but I remind of a Russian classic writer Gogol when I read this story. Gogol is a writer of in the middle of 19th century. After that, Chekhov have appeared. Main theme of Gogol is just like this person, this Sherwood Anderson wrote here. This is about a story about a very little person, petty bourgeoisie. So have you heard the famous Gogol story?
The Nose?
Yes.
I read it 20 years ago.
That's good. You know.
20 years ago. I don't remember it. I remember the guy meets the Nose and he's trying to take over his job or something.
This man is very, also, like this father in this story, very little man. And he has a very pay attention to very little thing. So, but he's very curious, but he's a lovely man. So it reminds me of this story. Nose, yes. And overcoat. Yeah, have you?
Oh, the overcoat. Yes.
Yes, overcoat is just like this story's main protagonist of overcoat is very similar to this father. So he also he's very curious and he's a very little man, very low. He's a officer, but very low position, and he wanted to be he dreamed to be a good life, better life, but his life turned out awful. So it's
very Russian.
It's very Russian. Maybe Russian classic story influenced on Sherwood Anderson. Sherwood Anderson appeared after the Gogol, so I think Russian story may be influenced.
I don't think it's an accident. That's a good point. I'm going to have to take another look. Listen, we have to stop because I have to start the next class, but I'll take a look at Gogol, and when we do the next story on Thursday, maybe we can talk a little bit about it. Maybe I can find a story that was also influenced by Gogol and this kind of character. I'll take a look. Sorry, I've got to run now, but I'll be back in just a minute.
I would like to express my deepest gratitude for giving me an opportunity to get acquainted with this interesting story. Maybe I haven't read Anderson before. Now I have a chance to read it. I want to read more.
And you must pass the torch.
I like it very much.
You must pass the torch on to future generations, Yuki. Carry that torch and pass it on, okay? Like the Olympic torch. Okay. Stopping now. I'll be back in just a minute for the business class. Bye for now. See you soon.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.